I asked you guys how you wanted to see a video pitching Windows 10 Pro versus Linux Mint 19.2 Cinnamon, both 64-bit, against each other in real time on a virtual machine, and you voted for a video with comment/narrative. Let's check it out. Hey name tags and welcome. This is Ash from My Tech. On this channel, I want to help you develop a better relationship with technology. So if you're new here, consider subscribing and click the bell icon to go from newbie to techie. And please use my Amazon affiliate links below to help out the channel. The clock starts from the moment the ISO is selected to start the installation of each operating system. The first to reach the desktop environment will be the winner. Feel free to take a guess and jot down in the comments below who you think will win and at what timestamps. No cheating. Windows 10 gets a head start at around 20 seconds, and as soon as you click on Install Now button, the installation setup starts. At around 30 seconds, you get a window asking for the license key already, which you can skip for later, followed by a request to select the exact Windows version. We are using the Pro version here. After accepting Windows license agreement and selecting on custom install for a fresh installation, you can select a free drive, and from then on, Windows will continue the installation automatically without your manual input for now. At around 43 seconds, that's when Linux Mint finally joins the race and you enter an actual desktop environment and select Install Linux Mint. You then select language, keyboard layout, opt to choose to install third-party software for graphics and Wi-Fi hardware, Flash, MP3 and other media. Then you get to pick the drive to install Linux Mint with options to do dual boot and manual partition if needs be. But for a simple installation of a new drive, just click on Install Now. A pop-up to confirm changes to the drive will take place. Then select your location, and in the next step, you need to pick a username, computer name, and a password. This is not optional. At about 1 minute 45 seconds, you finally press Continue, which ends your interaction in this installation process for Linux. And you can see that Linux had already started the copying of files over while you were in the previous window. From this point on, Windows is at about 15%, and while it displays a text-based installation progress, Linux Mint actually provides a much more pleasing aesthetic looking installation with preview of what is being installed on your computer. Since nothing much will happen over the next few minutes of installation, let me give you some context. I'm holding this competition as fair as possible, as variables have been kept minimal with use of the same computer through Oracle VirtualBox. Each OS was assigned the same amount of CPU, RAM and size allocation. I've tried my best to click each step of the installation process and insert any information needed at my normal reasonable speed. The recording, playback and stopwatch are all in real time. This experiment's second objective is to also compare and contrast each operating system with a side-by-side view. You will appreciate that at this stage there are far more differences between the two operating systems than there are similarities, and that should be a first clue with the following mindset. Windows is not Linux and vice versa. For starters, with Linux is an actual installation, boot and live test drive, whereas Windows is only an installation drive with some repair features. If you are coming onto a different platform, it can be easily forgiven at first to expect the same experience. It's not logical, but it's human nature. However, if once you are on Linux and you get annoyed because Linux doesn't work like Windows, you have the wrong attitude. Here's a clip of a previous video of what you can expect when Windows 7 ends its support from 14 January 2020. If you've already watched this video, you can skip to around 7 to 8 minutes for the next stage of the installation. Check out the timestamps in the description. End of support doesn't mean end. Windows 7 will still continue to work, but with reduced features, but that's for the general public. In the enterprise sector, it will be up to individual organizations to continue with Windows 7 or not, and that would depend on the deal they have directly with Microsoft. Any deployment of Windows 10 upgrade would have already been decided by management at this stage. As for embedded devices like ATMs or gas pumps, which are running with Windows 7, their life cycle are usually different to versions of Windows on personal computers. Here is what's not going to work anymore for the general end user. No more security updates, and your Windows 7 PC will not be protected by Microsoft Security Essentials, so yeah, your computer might become vulnerable. Windows 7 updates have been a problem in my experience way back since 2015 and 16, coincidentally when Windows 10 was being offered as a free upgrade. I remember spending quite a few weekends trying to fix Windows 7 updates for clients' computers, but in the end I gave into Windows 10. It just wasn't worth the time. However, security on a Windows PC isn't just about updates and antivirus software, but rather a common sense and good administration. So if you were using your PC irresponsibly in the first place, you probably won't see a difference much. Microsoft customer service will no longer be available to provide Windows 7 technical support. If you're anything like me, I've never actually benefited from their support, so I don't see how that would change now. Related services for Windows 7 will also be discontinued over time. For example, certain games such as Internet Backgammon and Internet Checkers, as well as Electronic Program Guide for Windows Media Center, are all scheduled to be discontinued in January 2020. Support for Internet Explorer on a Windows 7 device will also be discontinued. The only reason I ever used Internet Explorer on a Windows 7 machine was to go download Google Chrome or Mozilla Firefox, and sometimes I didn't even do that if I had the installation app on a pen drive. There will be no driver updates or support or even existence of drivers for some newer devices that you may want to connect to your PC. And again, this isn't anything new since Windows 10's infiltration. Manufacturers have not really been maintaining drivers for Windows 7 as much. So what will continue to work? You can still install and activate Windows 7 after 14 January 2020 in theory. You can still install all other applications like Google Chrome, VLC Media Player and others, but don't expect a flawless experience as time goes by. Microsoft Office will still work depending on the version you are using. As for gaming, Microsoft brought DirectX 12 support to Windows 7 in August 2019, 6 months before its end of support against first common logic. So I'm guessing game coders will still be supporting Windows 7 for a while if it's anything like Windows XP, as it may take a while before users of Windows 7 completely dissipate. Talking about Windows XP, here's history repeating itself, well, sort of. This is close to my heart as it was thanks to mainstream axing of Windows XP which brought me into the tech world, and more precisely introducing me to Linux. So the big question, what do you do? Stick with Windows 7, upgrade to Windows 10, or try another OS like Linux or MacOS? My answer might surprise you. The first big difference to Windows XP end of support situation is to still being able to upgrade to Windows 10 for free, despite what Microsoft says on their website. We didn't get this offer with Windows 7, you had to buy the license or go with piracy. At about 7 minutes 30 seconds, Windows 10 is done and a window showing restarting pops up while Linux is still installing. So whoever had Windows as the winner, you may need to wait as we're not yet on the desktop environment. So hang on to your shoes and feel free to review your initial prediction. At around 7 minutes 50, it looks like Windows is booting up for the second time. And at about 8 minutes, Linux is finally done, ready for a reboot, or you can continue testing the live disk if you wish. Windows is now getting your devices ready, and at 8 minutes 25 seconds, a login screen pops up on Linux requiring you to input your password. And finally, at 8 minutes 45 seconds, Linux is ready to be used as an operating system out of the box. While Windows 10 is still getting ready for the prom, we have a clear winner and it should have been no surprise, but the next question is by what margin is that win? I'm going to skip fast forward the rest of the Windows installation as I'm pretty sure you are familiar with Windows at this stage. And at about 10 minutes, Windows is now rebooting for the third time. Linux is lightweight and faster than Windows, and this Linux Mint Cinnamon is not even the lightest distro out there. In fact, it's about as heavy as you can get, as it's feature-packed and designed for Windows users to have as much GUI experience as possible. And this is not exclusive to the installation process. You can now use Linux for years without even having to reboot or update, and it will still be marginally fast. Unlike Windows, which will get bloated, heavy and relatively slower very quickly if you don't do some serious administration on your computer. Perhaps another huge turn off for Windows is the incessant rebooting as part of updates or installation of certain application. With Linux, you do the updates while you continue to work, and you choose when to reboot, and it doesn't make you wait to get back into the system, unlike with Windows. Of course, at the first log on to the desktop environment, you will need a few tweaks like getting updated drivers, etc. But as we have shown in a previous video, Linux is superior to Windows objectively. Go watch that video up here. Here's a clip. Linux is better than Windows, hands down, objectively, and that's exactly what we're going to prove in today's video. And if I'm wrong, I'm willing to give you, while you're going to have to wait and see later on in the video what I'm prepared to offer if I'm wrong, but you have to prove it. We are onto the desktop. 30 seconds. It's a big deal because we haven't got a hard drive on there. With this little USB which is in there, you have yourself an almost fully functional computer which you can take with you, and you can do whatever you need to do for daily tasks. You cannot do this with Windows. One is only an installation drive, which is going to be the Windows. The other one is an installation drive plus a live USB drive. It means it's a fully functional operating system that you can test drive before you even install. Let's go to a website which you may have heard of. I'll put a link below. It's called YouTube. It's not bad. There's a few things on there every now and then. It's not stuttering, it's not lagging. It's just playing, and it's a 1080p video. Can you do this with a Windows installation drive? You cannot. Look at that! We got GIMP! GIMP is the equivalent of Adobe Photoshop. My point is, out of the box, you didn't have even to install anything. Within 30-ish seconds, you've booted up and you can start using and connect straight to the internet. And that's what matters to most people these days. Are you convinced yet or not that Linux is superior, at least for now? But there's a but. There's a big but. Big but. One says to turn off, the other one says you're in trouble. Shoot. Windows. Try to put Windows on a 10-year-old desktop or laptop and see what you get as performance. If it installs at all, it will be slow as heck. For a free, no license required product, Linux is superior to Windows because it's free, end of story. Linux has some viruses, but Windows have viruses. I will create a video just for you, whatever you want me to do. At 11:13, Windows asks to select a region, then keyboard at 11:38, then some network setup, and at 14:25, your account setup. This is where you can pick a login username, and I wouldn't advise anyone with data privacy concern to choose a Microsoft account as your login details, but rather an offline local account. From then on, it's pretty much the exact opposite of what Microsoft gives by default to minimize being spied on and your data being collected. I say minimized and not completely private because yeah, this is probably the biggest concern of all, our private data which Microsoft is collecting on their behalf and on behalf of their partners. I also did not select a password here as it would have been even longer to install to select some recovery questions and answers. Linux already won on speed anyway. Windows is finally ready on the desktop environment at around 1819, more than double the time. In the future, I would want to actually create a test Microsoft account and then pit it against a private offline account as private as possible and see the difference in results when it comes to online searches, etc. Because to play the devil's advocate here, if you're not using Windows as it was designed with Cortana and all your private info becoming public property, then you are probably missing out. So we'll have some fun. However, I want to clear the air here. Sometimes people think that I only root for Linux and that I am an expert power user. I am not, and although I would like to switch completely to Linux, I'm still in the process, and that is why I'm inviting you to join us here so we can share this journey together. It's not all good news, and it's not as straightforward as some people would like you to believe, but it's also not as difficult, otherwise no one would be using Linux, including yours truly. So go and watch this video up here for further details, and if you are having hardware problems with your PC, this series down here will help you troubleshoot almost any problem. Please use my Amazon affiliate links to help out the channel, subscribe if you're new here, and click the bell icon to go from newbie to techie. This was Ash from In My Tech, and I will see you until the next one. Peace out.